Sho Tucker was a state alchemist known for creating the first talking chimera 2 years before the start of the series. His certification was coming up for review, and he hadn't produced any significant research results since that first achievement. If he failed the review, he would lose his certification and all the funding that came with it. Edward and Alphonse Elric were staying at Tucker's house to research biological alchemy. During this time, they got to know Tucker's young daughter Nina and their large dog Alexander. Nina was a cheerful kid who loved playing with Ed and Al, and she often played with Alexander around the house. Tucker became increasingly desperate as his assessment date approached. He had no new research to show, and he knew he would lose everything if he couldn't produce results. So he did what he had done once before. He used human transmutation to fuse a human with an animal to create a talking chimera. When Ed and Al returned to Tucker's house, they found that Nina and Alexander were both missing. Instead, there was a new chimera that could speak. The chimera looked like a large dog-like creature with long matted fur. But when it spoke, Ed immediately recognized something was wrong. The chimera said, "Ed Ward, big brother, play," in a slow, struggling voice. Ed realized what Tucker had done. He had fused Nina and Alexander together to create this talking chimera. The creature still had Nina's memories and could recognize Edward and Alphonse. She was conscious and aware, trapped in this new body, unable to return to her human form. When confronted, Tucker showed no remorse. He defended his actions by saying that a state alchemist must always make progress and produce results. He acted like this was just necessary research. That's when Tucker revealed something even more horrifying. His wife hadn't actually left him 2 years ago like everyone thought. He had used her to create his first talking chimera, the achievement that made him a state alchemist in the first place. The military arrested Tucker for his crimes. Nina, still in her chimera form, was placed in a research facility, but she didn't stay there long. Scar, a serial killer targeting state alchemists, found her and killed her. He saw it as a mercy killing, ending her suffering rather than letting her live in that painful existence. Edward was traumatized by what happened to Nina. He blamed himself for not realizing what Tucker was doing sooner. This event stayed with him throughout the entire series and reinforced his determination to restore his and Alphonse's bodies the right way, without sacrificing others. Bondrewd was a white whistle delver who conducted experiments in the deepest parts of the abyss. He wanted to understand the curse of the abyss, the phenomenon that affects anyone who ascends from the lower layers. The deeper you go, the worse the curse gets when you come back up. He used orphan children as test subjects for these experiments. Mitty and Nanachi were two orphans living in the slums on the surface. They had nothing and were struggling to survive. When Bondrewd's people came recruiting, they offered food, shelter, and the promise of helping with important research. Mitty and Nanachi volunteered together, not knowing what they were actually signing up for. Bondrewd took groups of children down to the 6th layer of the abyss in a special elevator-like vessel. The 6th layer is extremely deep. Ascending from that depth normally causes loss of humanity or death. That's exactly what Bondrewd wanted to study. He put the children in pairs inside cartridges and brought them back up to see what would happen. Mitty and Nanachi were placed together in one of these cartridges, but Bondrewd designed the cartridges with a specific purpose. They would force the curse from one person onto the other. This meant one child might survive with minimal effects while their partner would take the full impact of both curses. When they ascended, Nanachi transformed into what's called a Narehate, or hollow. She became a furry creature that looked like a rabbit or small animal, but she kept her human intelligence and ability to speak. She could still think and talk normally, just in a different body. Mitty wasn't as lucky. She absorbed both her curse and Nanachi's curse at the same time. Her body transformed into something that barely looked human anymore. She became a blob-like creature with distorted features, unable to speak or move properly. But the worst part was what the double curse did to her body's functions. The extreme curse gave Mitty a form of immortality. Her body couldn't die through normal means. She would regenerate from any injury, no matter how severe. Bondrewd tested this by subjecting her to various experiments, burning, crushing, and other forms of damage. Every time her body would heal and regenerate. She couldn't escape through death. Despite her transformation, Mitty retained some level of consciousness. When Nanachi looked at her, Mitty's eyes would show recognition. She couldn't speak or communicate in any clear way, but she was still aware on some level. She was trapped in this immortal body, unable to die, unable to communicate, just existing. Nanachi eventually escaped from Bondrewd's facility and took Mitty with her. She cared for Mitty in the 4th layer of the abyss for years, hoping to find a way to either restore her or give her peace. But nothing worked. Mitty's immortality meant she couldn't be killed by conventional means. When Rico and Reg arrived in, Nanachi asked Reg to use his incinerator, a powerful weapon that completely disintegrates whatever it hits. Reg fired the incinerator directly at Mitty. The beam completely vaporized her body, finally ending her existence. It was the only thing powerful enough to overcome her regeneration and give her a true death. Tetsuo Shima was a teenage biker in Neo-Tokyo who got into an accident with a psychic child named Takashi. The collision awakened latent psychic abilities in Tetsuo that had been dormant his whole life. The military immediately took him to a research facility where they had been studying psychic children for decades. decades. The scientists at the facility started running tests on Tetsuo to measure and understand his abilities, but his power level was increasing at an abnormal rate, much faster than the other psychic children they had studied. The Espers, the elderly psychic children at the facility, warned that Tetsuo's power was growing too quickly and that his body wouldn't be able to handle it. As Tetsuo's abilities grew stronger, he started experiencing severe side effects. He had intense headaches and his body began to feel unstable. The scientists explained that his psychic power was exceeding what his physical body could contain. The first major mutation happened to Tetsuo's right arm after it was injured. Instead of healing normally, the arm began to grow and transform into a massive twisted mass of flesh and mechanical-looking tissue. It wasn't just growth, it was uncontrolled mutation that mixed organic matter with inorganic material in grotesque ways. When Tetsuo's power finally went completely out of control, his entire body started mutating. His flesh began expanding rapidly, growing into an enormous blob-like mass. The mutation wasn't just his own body, it started absorbing and consuming everything around it. His motorcycle got pulled into the mass. His girlfriend Yori, who was trying to reach him, got caught in the expanding flesh and was crushed and absorbed into it. The flesh mass grew to enormous size, filling large portions of the Olympic Stadium area. It was a pulsing, writhing mountain of mutated tissue that kept expanding outward. Metal, concrete, and organic matter all got mixed together as the mass consumed everything in its path. The most disturbing part was that Tetsuo remained conscious through all of this. He was aware of what was happening but couldn't stop it. His face would occasionally surface within the flesh mass, and he was clearly terrified and in pain. He screamed and cried out, begging for someone to help him and make it stop. At one point, he specifically called out for Kaneda, his friend. The other psychic children tried to help contain the situation. When Akira's power got involved, there was a massive energy reaction. Tetsuo's mutation reached a critical point where the mass began to collapse in on itself. The psychic energy created what looked like a singularity or black hole effect. In the end, Tetsuo didn't just die, he transformed into something else entirely. The collapse of his mutated form and the convergence of psychic energy caused him to transcend into a different state of existence. The Espers explained that he was beginning a new universe, suggesting he became some kind of cosmic entity rather than simply being destroyed. Crybaby is a creature that approaches teenage girls and offers them one wish. In exchange for granting that wish, the girl becomes a magical girl with powers to fight witches. Witches are monsters that hide inside barriers and cause people to harm themselves. On the surface, this seems like a fair deal. You get your wish and help save people. But Crybaby leaves out the most important part of the contract. When a girl agrees to become a magical girl, Crybaby performs the transformation by removing her soul from her body and placing it inside a small gem called a soul gem. This isn't just a power source or a magical item, it literally is her soul. Her body becomes an empty shell that's controlled by the soul gem. Crybaby explains that this is actually an upgrade. Since the body is now separate from the soul, magical girls can fight without feeling as much pain and can keep going even with serious injuries. But the reality is that their human body is now just a puppet being controlled remotely by a gem. The soul gem has another function that Crybaby doesn't explain up front. It collects negative emotions and despair. Every time a magical girl uses magic, the gem gets a little darker. Every time she feels sadness, anger, or hopelessness, it gets darker. If a magical girl doesn't regularly purify her soul gem by using grief seeds dropped by defeated witches, it will eventually turn completely black. When a soul gem becomes completely corrupted, it doesn't just break or stop working, it transforms into a grief seed, and the magical girl transforms into a witch. This is the secret that Crybaby hides. Every witch that magical girls fight used to be a magical girl herself. The monsters they've been killing were once girls just like them who made contracts with Crybaby. Sayaka Miki's transformation shows exactly how this process works. Sayaka used her wish to heal a boy named Kyosuke's injured hand so he could play violin again. She became a magical girl hoping to protect people and do good, but things went wrong quickly. Kyosuke ended up getting close to her friend Hitomi instead of her. Sayaka also learned the truth about soul gems and was horrified that her body was now just an empty shell. As Sayaka fought more witches and dealt with her emotional pain, her soul gem got darker and darker. She could see it happening but couldn't stop it. She felt like she had become something inhuman, and the boy she loved would never see her the same way. Her hope turned into complete despair. When Sayaka's soul gem finally turned completely black, it shattered and became a grief seed. Her body transformed into a witch called Octavia von Seckendorf. The witch form reflected her inner pain. It was a mermaid-like creature surrounded by water, similar to the Little Mermaid fairy tale about unrequited love. The witch conducted an orchestra in a concert hall setting, connecting to Kyosuke's music. Sayaka was completely gone at this point, replaced by the witch. The other magical girls had to fight and kill Octavia, not knowing at first that she was Sayaka. This is what makes the system so disturbing. Magical girls spend their time hunting and killing witches, and then they eventually become witches themselves and get hunted by the next generation of magical girls. Crybaby reveals that this entire system is intentional. His species harvests the energy that's released when a magical girl's hope turns into despair and she becomes a witch. damage. That energy is used to prevent the heat death of the universe. To Kyubi, this is a logical and efficient system. He doesn't understand why humans would be upset about it. Homura Akemi has lived through multiple timelines and watched this cycle repeat over and over. She's seen Mami, Kyoko, and Sayaka all become witches in different timelines. Even Madoka, who would become the most powerful magical girl, would also become the most dangerous witch if she ever transformed. Parasites are alien creatures that came to Earth and started taking over human bodies. They enter through a person's nose or ear while they're sleeping and burrow into the brain. Once they reach the brain, they take complete control of the body. The human consciousness is gone. The person is dead, but their body keeps walking around with a parasite controlling it. Shinichi Izumi was sleeping when a parasite tried to enter his body through his ear. He woke up and the parasite ended up burrowing into his right hand instead. Shinichi tied off his arm with his headphone cord before the parasite could reach his brain. This created an unusual situation. The parasite named Migi only took over his right hand while Shinichi kept control of the rest of his body. Most parasites aren't like Migi though. They take over the entire person. When a parasite fully takes over a host, they can access all of the person's memories. They know the host's name, job, family members, and daily routines. This lets them blend in and pretend to be the original person, but they don't have any of the human's emotions or feelings. They can't love, can't feel compassion, and don't care about the relationships the original person had. The parasites can also morph their host's body in disturbing ways. They can turn body parts into bladed weapons, create tentacles, split the head open, and reshape flesh however they need to. These transformations happen quickly and the parasite can switch back to looking completely normal in seconds. Shinichi's mother, Nobuko, was one of the people who got taken over by a parasite that was in a different host transferred into her body after its original host was damaged. When Shinichi came home, he found his mother standing there looking completely normal, but something was off about the way she moved and looked at him. The parasite wearing his mother's face attacked Shinichi. It stabbed him through the chest with a blade it formed from her arm. There was no recognition in her eyes at all. She looked exactly like his mother. Same face, same hair, same voice. But the person inside was completely gone. The way she moved was stiff and unnatural, not like how a human mother would move. Shinichi knew his real mother was dead. When it looked at him, it saw prey or a threat, not her son. The parasite chased him and kept trying to kill him with cold efficiency. Later, after Shinichi recovered from his injuries, he confronted the parasite in his mother's body again. He had to face the fact that he would need to destroy his mother's body to stop the parasite. Even though he knew she was gone, seeing her face and hearing her voice made it extremely difficult. Eventually, the parasite was killed and his mother's body died with it. But the trauma of being attacked by someone who looked exactly like his mother, who moved in her body and spoke with her voice, stayed with Shinichi for the rest of the series. Ryo Asuka brings his childhood friend Akira Fudo to an underground party in an abandoned warehouse. Ryo explains that demons can possess humans when people lose complete control of their emotions. The stronger the emotions, fear, rage, lust, the easier it is for demons to take over. This party is called a Sabbath, and it's designed to push people to their breaking point. There are drugs everywhere. Loud electronic music, strobe lights, and people fighting and doing extreme things. Ryo actually brought weapons and more drugs to make the chaos worse on purpose. He wants to create the perfect conditions for demons to appear. As the party gets more out of control, demons start coming through. They possess the people who have completely lost themselves to their emotions. The transformations don't happen one at a time. They happen all at once across the whole crowd. People's bodies start changing while the music keeps blasting. Skin rips open, bones crack and reshape. Arms and legs twist into new forms. Some people grow wings, claws, or extra limbs. Their faces stretch and deform into monstrous shapes. The transformations are violent and painful to watch. Some of the demons that form are even more disturbing. Multiple people's bodies merge together during the possession, creating single demons made from several fused human bodies. These amalgamation demons have parts from different people all twisted together into one creature. The whole room becomes a nightmare in minutes. Dozens of people are transforming simultaneously while the electronic dance music continues playing. They're screaming, flesh-tearing, and complete chaos. The strobe lights keep flashing, giving quick glimpses of the horror happening everywhere. Akira gets targeted by Amon, one of the most powerful demons. Amon tries to possess and take over Akira's body completely, but something different happens with Akira. Instead of losing his human mind like everyone else, Akira manages to keep his human heart and consciousness while merging with Amon's power and body. This makes Akira a Devilman, a demon body with a human soul still inside. He gets Amon's incredible strength, speed, and abilities, but he keeps his emotions, memories, and his ability to cry. This is extremely rare. Almost Almost everyone else who gets possessed loses their humanity completely. By the time the Sabbath ends, most of the people there are either dead or have become full demons. The demons can disguise themselves to look human again, so some of them walk out of the warehouse looking normal on the outside, but inside they're completely different creatures with no human emotions left. The few people who survive without being possessed are left traumatized by what they saw. They watch their friends and strangers transform into monsters right in front of them. There was no warning, no time to escape. One moment it was a party, the next moment it was a mass possession event. The Chimera Ant Queen has a special ability called phagogenesis. This means when she eats other creatures, she can give birth to offspring that have traits from whatever she ate. If she eats a fish, her babies might have fish features. If she eats a bird, they might have wings. When the queen arrives in the human world, she starts eating humans. This changes everything. The ants she gives birth to after eating humans are hybrids, part ant, part human. They walk upright, have human-like hands, and can talk, but they still have ant features like exoskeletons, antennae, and insect eyes. The really disturbing part is that these ant-human hybrids sometimes carry memories from the humans the queen ate. They remember pieces of their past human lives, but now they exist as giant ant soldiers serving the colony. Colt is one of the Chimera Ant Squad leaders. He looks like a giant humanoid ant with eagle features, but he has memories of being human. He remembers he had a little sister when he was human. Her name was Reina. Throughout the series, he has these human feelings and memories, even though he's now a loyal soldier in the ant army. Reina was also eaten by the queen along with her brother. She gets reborn as one of the queen's offspring. Later, after the Chimera Ant King Meruem is born and the original queen dies, Reina is reborn again in a special way as the new queen's first child. She carries memories of her human mother and her past life. Different ants remember different amounts of their human lives. Some, like Colt, have clear memories and can remember specific people and events. Others only have vague feelings, like they know they cared about something but can't remember what exactly. Some don't seem to have any human memories at all. As the queen eats more humans, the ants she produces become more and more human-like. They start developing human emotions like fear, ambition, loyalty, and love. They begin to question orders and think for themselves. The royal guards and the king himself are born with incredibly high intelligence and complex emotions because the queen had consumed so many humans by that point. The squadron leaders start acting less like insects following instincts and more like individuals with personalities. Some of them even start to rebel against the colony's mission. Meleron, another squad leader, decides to help the humans instead of fighting them because he develops a sense of morality. Shinsekai Yori takes place about 1,000 years in the future. Society is made up of humans with psychic powers called Cantus, who live in small villages. Outside the villages are creatures called monster rats, or bakenezumi. They look like giant naked mole rats that walk on two legs. They build colonies, go to war with each other, and serve the human psychics. Throughout the series, the monster rats are treated as intelligent animals or a separate species. They have their own language, complex societies with queens and workers, and can communicate with humans. But everyone assumes they're just evolved rodents that happen to be smart. The truth comes out during Squealer's trial. Squealer is a monster rat leader who rebelled against the humans. After his rebellion is crushed, he's put on trial. During the trial, he reveals what the monster rats actually are. The monster rats are humans. Specifically, they're descended from normal humans who didn't have psychic powers. About 1,000 years ago, when psychic powers first appeared, society fell apart. The psychics had death feedback, a mechanism that makes them die if they kill other humans. This was built into them genetically to prevent psychics from killing each other. To get around this, the psychic humans genetically modified the non-psychic humans. They changed them so much that they no longer registered as human. They were transformed into creatures that looked like naked mole rats. This way, psychics could kill them without triggering death feedback. These modified humans became the monster rats. They were forced into this form and made to serve the psychic humans as a slave race, but they kept their human-level intelligence, emotions, and ability to form complex societies. They just couldn't fight back effectively against the psychics. Squealer explains all of this during his trial. He argues that monster rats are human and deserve human rights. He points out that they have language, culture, families, and emotions, just like the psychic humans. He says they were forcibly transformed and enslaved, and his rebellion was a fight for freedom. The humans at the trial don't deny that monster rats are descended from humans. They know it's true, but they don't care. They've built their entire society on having monster rats as servants in a lower class. Admitting that monster rats are human would mean admitting to generations of slavery and genocide. Throughout the series, before this revelation, we see monster rats doing very human things. They negotiate, make alliances, betray each other, love their families, and fear death. Their colonies have social structures similar to human societies. They create art and have cultural practices. All of these are signs of of their human origins. The transformation wasn't just physical. It was designed to make them look non-human enough that psychics wouldn't feel guilt about killing them or using them as slaves. Their appearance as giant rodents made it easier for the psychic humans to treat them as animals rather than people. The trial ends with Squealer being convicted and sentenced to continuous torture using a device called Eternal Hell. He keeps screaming that they're human and deserve better treatment, but the psychic humans ignore his pleas because acknowledging the monster rats as human would destroy their entire way of life. This revelation recontextualizes everything that happened in the series. All the times monster rats were killed, enslaved, or treated as disposable, those were all actions against humans who had been forcibly transformed. The main characters were unknowingly participating in a system of human slavery and oppression the whole time. If you like this video, turn on the notification bell and subscribe for more.